The UFC in 2025 is cooked. We are cooked, guys. This is another main event where it was a boring smudge fest. Nothing happened. There was in round 5. I think there was no significant strikes from Islam Makhachev. It's getting ridiculous. The biggest fights of this year, this fight in Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis, both have been some of the worst title fights we have ever seen. The hype for these fights, they were massive before the fights. A lot of people tuned in. A lot of people probably got their casual friends to watch the fights. And, it was just some of the most boring title fights you would ever see in your entire life. And it's getting ridiculous out here, guys. It's getting wicked. We got to cover this. We got to cover the Dricus du Plessis Khamzat Chimaev fight. It's been a while, but let's get straight into it. This fight right here, this event in general, was named the biggest fight, the biggest event of the year. There was so much hype going into this fight. Islam Makhachev coming up to fight Jack Della Maddalena at 170 pounds. We thought this was going to be a scrap. This was going to be a huge fight. It was going to be a great fight. But it ended up being a smudge fest. These refs, they haven't been... they stood up the DDP Khamzat fight, but they didn't stand up this fight. Islam wasn't even throwing tapping strikes at JDM. Most of the time, he was just controlling him in half guard, doing pretty much fuck all. I don't understand what the refs are doing. I thought there was around the time of DDP Khamzat, they were standing people up more. They said they were going to start standing up fights if they were stalling out more. We haven't been seeing that. They separated Carlos Prates and Leon Edwards when they were in the clinch for at least I think it was a minute or 30 seconds. They separated that, but they didn't separate this fight one time. Not Khamzat Chimaev. I'm getting mixed up now. Islam Makhachev. He was barely even throwing any strikes on the ground at all. If you look at the strikes by round, 20 strikes, 36 strikes, 32, 30, 22, and there's 0 significant strikes in round 5, 7 significant strikes in round 4, 11 in round 3, 9 in round 2, and 3 in round 1. He wasn't even doing anything on the ground pretty much except tapping strikes here and there. He didn't posture up, throw elbows down. No significant ground and pound at all during the fight. He was throwing up some submission attempts, but it literally just looked like he was just doing it so he wouldn't get stood up. He just stalled the whole fight pretty much. The whole fight was just half guard camping. JDM really couldn't get up at that point. So it's kind of on him. But at the same time, the referees have to stand up when it's just stalling. It's getting ridiculous. The biggest fights of this year have just been stalling. But speaking on just this event right now, the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang, it was the same thing. We had to sit through 15 minutes of just half guard for the rest of the night. This main event was supposed to be the biggest main event of the year, fight of the year. People were saying this is going to get fight of the year. I don't know what the refs are doing. I don't know what the UFC is doing in general with the rules of stalling. It's been a couple, I think it's been almost a year, 2 years since we've been talking about this, and nothing has changed pretty much at all. They said they were going to stand up fights more when they were stalling. I don't know what they're doing. The co-main event, again, it was supposed to be the biggest women's fight of all time, one of the biggest women's fights of all time. Weili Zhang coming up, trying to get double champ status. And it was just half guard camping, just like this fight. 50 minutes of half guard camping, the biggest fight of the year. Some of the most eyes on a fight card this year, and this is what we get. It's ridiculous. The referees have to stand the fight up at some point when there's nothing going on in the ground. And people, I'm so sick of hearing, if you don't like watching this, go watch kickboxing or Muay Thai. This is not wrestling. We're not here watching wrestling. This is mixed martial arts. It's mixed martial arts, not wrestling. So if you like watching this, if you like watching a grown man lay on top of another man, just rubbing all over him, it's just ridiculous. Go watch wrestling then. And I'm sick of people pretending that they enjoy watching this and this is entertaining at any facet at all. I'm sick of it, People will call the main event boring, but then they'll call this entertaining, and Islam put on a great performance. That was the shittiest title fight performance I've ever seen from Islam Makhachev, or any of the Dagestanis in general. You know, the double standard there is crazy. Because the co-main event was pretty much a copy and paste of the main event. It's pretty much the same fight. It was just half guard the whole fucking time. No fighting at all. Barely any significant strikes. There was probably more significant strikes in one round of the Ethan and Wellmaker fight. You know, there's a reason why the boxing fans just say that we're just watching grown men laying on each other the whole time. Because it's pretty much what the sport is turning into. You know, Dana White should be embarrassed, but he doesn't really care because he's promoting boxing himself now. You know, the sport is getting wicked out here. Dana White does not really care about the UFC anymore. If he's over here promoting his competition, it's not making it any better when we have people like Joe Rogan over here saying, you know, they shouldn't be stood up at all. You should have to get up yourself the whole time. You should be able to just stall on the ground the whole time. They shouldn't be stood up at all. When he's over here talking about this whole fight, oh my God, the commentary was so bad. It was just Joe Rogan talking about the calf kicks the whole time. This is literally all he talks about. Calf kick. You know, Benson Henderson, he invented the calf kick. It's every fight, dude. I can't stand Joe Rogan anymore. He used to be a great commentator. He doesn't really pay attention to the fights anymore. DC just glazing Islam on the commentary desk as well. John Anik just bringing up a whole lot of hoopla every fight. The commentary is just abysmal. I can't listen to it anymore. But people like Joe Rogan, again, yeah, they're not making it any better. The people around the sport are not encouraging this at all to change the rules of stalling and help out what's going on right now in the UFC. You know, I barely see anyone talking about this at all, unless it's in like comment sections. Like no big people in the MMA space are speaking about this, and except for a couple people like Luke Thomas. Luke Thomas has spoke about this before. You know, but this needs to get around. This needs to start getting bigger, like a bigger conversation. It's getting ridiculous at this point. 2 of the biggest events of the year, 2 of the biggest fights of this year, have just been stall fest. Have been a whole lot of nothing. There was a point in time where the UFC was getting bigger than boxing, and it was bigger than boxing for a couple of years. But I see the fanship is swaying towards boxing again. You know. All I see is things like this happening, and boxing is going to get more popular than the UFC again. The UFC is going to start losing fans because of this. You know, it's just not entertaining. It's not entertaining at all in any facet. And I just feel bad for the people that paid $80 or however much they paid for this fight or the DDP fight, but especially this card because it was going to be a great card. You know, all the fights before the co-main and the main event were great fights, great knockouts, great finishes. You know, and 50 minutes of just half guard, $80 they paid or more, or however much they paid for this. It's not worth your money. If I paid that much money and I watched that, I would want a refund. You know, it's just ridiculous at this point. These people are just hugging on the ground and doing nothing. They're not even trying to go for finishes at this point. They're just hugging, stalling, doing anything they can just to win the fight by doing nothing. It's boring. No one likes to watch it except for their fan base, which are the most annoying fan base in the sport. If you've seen them in the comment sections on Instagram or anything, they're so annoying. They're worse than Conor fans ever were. They're worse than Max Holloway fans. They're worse than John Jones fans, as a matter of fact. They're just the worst, dude. Peaceful people, but they'll threaten your family if you say anything bad about their fighters, you know? They'll just jump you in the crowd at the UFC if you say one remark about them or anything, even though Dylan Dennis is a kind of a bit of an asshole, but you jump him with 10 people and he gets banned from that. But like I was saying, 50 minutes of half-guard camping, it wasn't just a waste of your money, it was a waste of your time. No one wants to watch that except for their fan base. Again, the most annoying people in the sport. Anyone else is just calling it for what it is. You know, that's not fighting. It's boring. No one wants to watch that. If you want to watch 2 men lay on top of each other, then just go watch something else. Because that's not this. This is MMA. This is UFC. And the rules need to change soon. Dana White doesn't care about the sport, so I don't know if that's ever going to happen unless we get a new person running the UFC. But next event we got is Merab versus Jan. So hopefully it's not the same thing, but it probably will be. It will just be this repeat of the first fight with Jan and Merab, where Merab just holding him up against the fence and doing nothing. So we'll just have to see. Wait until then. But if you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, share the video, get the word out, get this video up there and get it big. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.